All right. Hi, my name is Kristen Merritt. This is Homeward Sounds. I'm going to be playing a couple songs today. This first one is an original called Awareness. I wrote this song now, it must have been maybe about a year ago when I lived in my previous apartment. I really enjoyed, oh no, it wasn't a year ago, it was a couple months ago. But when I lived in my previous apartment, I really would like to sit in a park near the laundromat that I would do my laundry in. So I would do my laundry, go to the park, hang out a little bit. And I have been meditating for the past 3 years. And so generally when I would go to the park, I would find myself just being on my phone, watching TikToks, doing Instagram. But on this particular day, I was like, you know what? I do meditation. Let's try to get into a different zone. So I put my phone down and I just took in the space around me. I tried to be more aware of the space around me. And I ended up like getting tearful and crying because I was just like, wow, the world is such a beautiful place. And so I wrote this song as inspiration from that little event. So again, this is Awareness.
I sit beside myself and gaze, trying to know this woman by inner find a place. She looks quite sad and cries alone, but her tears dipped asunder, finding a home with a far-reaching aim, unaware to omit. With a wandering thought, she dares to sit as a bird swims the breeze, and she stops to reflect. And a man does a tale with a secret well kept in his fingers, through his soul, dancing fingers meet the whole. All meets wonder through her eyes, extraordinary words disguises, not wanting to be too seen, hiding marvels in between the spaces that you might ignore. Something underneath is more than you and I would ever know. You and I, soon to be shown how life is breathtaking if you let it be. Wraps you up in golden, delectable rays of sweet apogee. Grants you pause to take it all in, to restart and begin again. Let me falter, let me shake, God on my soul, you will not break. All means wonder through her eyes, extraordinary words disguises, not wanting to be too seen, hiding marvels in between the spaces that you might ignore. Something underneath is more than you and I will ever know. You and I, soon to be shown. Oh, oh. Ooh, oh, oh. Ooh, oh.
Thank you. Thank you. Flummoxed a little bit on that last part, but that's all right. Thank you. So this next song is a mashup between two songs, and I'm just going to let you guys hopefully figure it out. So enjoy.
see the crystal raindrops fall, and the beauty of it all is when the sun comes shining through. Down those rainbows in my mind when I think of you sometimes, and I wanna spend some time with you. Just the two of us, we can make it if we try. Just the two of us, just the two of us, just the two of us, building castles in the sky. Just the two of us, you and I guess you wonder where I've been. I searched to find the love within. Ooh, and I came back to let you know. Got a thing for you, and I can't let go. Ooh, and my friends wonder what is wrong with me, but I'm in a daze for your love, you see. Oh, and I came back to let you know. Got a thing for you, and I can't let go. Just the two of us, we can make it if we try. Just the two of us, just the two of us, just the two of us, building castles in the sky. Just the two of us, you and I hear the crystal raindrops fall on the window down the hall, and it becomes the morning dew. And darling, when the morning comes and I see the morning sun, I just wanna be the one with you. Just the two of us, we can make it if we try. Just the two of us, just the two of us, just the two of us, building castles in the sky. Just the two of us, you and I. You, 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 you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I always feel good on that one. This one? All right. All right. So this next song is an original called Blue. I actually submitted this a couple of years ago for a Tiny Desk concert, one of NPR's Tiny Desk concerts. But the song, in terms of its origins, was written after a breakup. And I often find with songwriting and with music, it is a way for me to express the very difficult, deep emotions that often I'll try to hide with humor or just really not talk about. And so this breakup hit me particularly hard. And so I was just like, I just need to do something. And the only thing that I could think of was write music. So I wrote Blue. It's spelled BLU for dramatic emphasis on my sadness. So this is Blue.
Drift slowly, breathe easier. Feels lonely when I cry. Smile softly to be drenched in my pain. Hold only to it cannot be erased. you could stay a while and paint a picture with me. Paint the colors bright, make the story light, fairy tale with a happy ending. Yes, I wanted to see the tinted the rosy reflection of more than what was to begin with. But the pain in the sea with more clarity, I now see something different. Gentle was your touch and hungry was your kiss. Lonely was your smile, but lost in reminiscing I was. Hopeful was your smile and longing was my touch. I see it all, how the truth lingers on the story of our brush. And brush it did, the story that is, the truth that went on my heart. I painted colors pink, cause I started to think it was enough to sustain your part. But now it kinda drawn, I can see the truth was painted in deep blue. Because I realized no matter how I tried, I couldn't quite paint those bright colors with you. Gentle was my touch and hungry was my kiss. Lonely was your smile, but lost in reminiscing I was. Hopeful once was your smile, when you smiled the way at me. But now I see it all, how the truth lingers, how it wasn't meant to be.
Thank you. Oh yes, thank you. Yeah.
So nice.
Thank you. That's my sad boy song. All right, so for this last song, I'm going to be doing a mashup of 3 songs, actually. So the first song is Best Part, next one will be Happier Than Ever, and then the last song is How Does It Feel? So we're going to go ahead and work some chords between the 3.
You don't know, babe, when you hold me and kiss me slowly, it's the sweetest thing. And it don't change if I had it my way. You would know that you are. You call me again, drunk in your Benz, driving home under the influence. Scare me to death, but I'm wasting my breath, 'cause you only listen to your friends, but I don't relate to you. No, I don't relate to you, 'cause I never treat me this shitty, and you made me hate this city. Oh, how does it feel? How does it feel? Oh, does it feel?
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Wonderful.
Right on, Kristen Merritt. Another great episode of Homeward Sounds. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having
Really
me.
appreciate it. You sound awesome. Set was phenomenal.
Thank you.
Really, really awesome music. Where you come from?
So I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan, but I like to say that I'm by way of Williamsburg, Newport News, Virginia. That's my second home in Virginia.
Cool. Right on. So how long have you been in New York?
So I've been in New York since October of 2019.
Cool.
I got here just before the pandemic started.
That's great timing.
Yes, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
As I was reading, about like your various bios or like interviews you've done, I'd read what you had written about coming to New York, like coming with like no prospects and just completely taking a risk.
Yeah.
And I think you had said something like, you needed to have that certain degree of calculated risk in order to like thrive and succeed.
Right. Yeah. I'm big on a calculated risk, just given that I think life is meant, sometimes we're meant to take risks in life, but I like to be pragmatic. I'm grounded. I'm a Taurus. And so, I still wanted to make sure that there was some type of plan in place. So it was getting here with very few things, staying with a friend for a week, and then having done enough research on the back end to figure out when I got here. So it wasn't completely like nothing, but it was a little bit nothing.
Yeah. No, I mean, it definitely gives you that sense of like needing to make it happen.
Yes,
there's not really a backup plan.
Exactly.
Like backup plans are fine, but there's sometimes it's just best to not have a plan A.
Yeah, exactly. A little bit too much. Exactly.
As I was reading about, like you coming up in New York, you had said like you've played all sorts of venues from like quieter, smaller venues to like even big time, like festival type stuff. Do you have a preference? And like to piggyback on that, do you find like the venues affect the music at all? Like, or are you playing them?
For sure. Yeah. So I think if I had to choose a preference, so if it's just me, vocals and guitar, I think that I do like the smaller venues a little bit more. When I got here, a friend of mine was in the city a couple of years ago, and he really got around on the open mic scene. And so he had started a spreadsheet with a couple open mics. And then so I put more open mics on that spreadsheet and then went to a bunch of them. And I really liked the open mic vibe. I think something that was fun is just with an open mic, you never really know what you're going to expect. You just come to have fun. And so when I would start playing, like, not trying to be like too like, but when I would start playing, it would like get really quiet and I would be like, haha, okay. So, I'm kind of doing something. And I think that was a cool effect. But yeah, when it's just me and the vocals and guitar, a little smaller setting, and then if I have a full band, of course, I want to play a bigger show where people can dance around and
course.
have a good time.
It's funny that's like a metric of like of success in that like setting, like quieting people down and really capturing people's attention. You're like, okay, that's what you want.
Yes,
just to really like catch people's attention.
Yeah, because like you also want some hoot and holler sometimes.
Yeah, of course.
But it's cool to see like, okay, people are actually leaning in and listening.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
A good feeling.
So you do you do some journalistic stuff?
So
I feel like I read something about journalism.
So my day job, I work for. Can I say who I work for? I work for the Solutions Journalism Network, based here in New York, and we're basically a journalism nonprofit. Cool. I was a geology major in college.
Okay, cool. That rocks.
Yeah, there you go. Rock puns,
Do people just say all the time?
Yeah, major? And I have some good rock puns, but I'll say those for later.
Okay. Where we work them and sprinkle them in.
Exactly right. Yeah. So I'm not shy to like research and data, because I did a thesis on oysters, which again, I can talk about later if we come back to that.
Absolutely.
Yes. And so the position that I work with or in at SJN is like a data position. So I just like plug in all of the information in our CRM to make sure that we are managing contacts, accounts, all that fun stuff.
Yeah. It's funny, as I was reading that you were into journalism, I never made that connection before between like songwriting and journalism. Like both things are reporting facts sort of, but in such different ways. Like in journalism, it's more about obviously like clear cut.
Right.
Whereas songwriting, it's just so much more abstract.
Yeah. A little more storytelling.
Yeah. Like you're telling a story with both of them, but using such a different hat to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you like find that those things like touched each other in weird ways as you were doing both of them?
Well, so I don't actually do any journalism myself. Yeah, I'm not writing the stories that the organization produces, but I will say the way that the organization is set up, what solutions journalism is, it does aim to tell a story that has a problem. Stories that we're interested in hearing have problems, but instead of focusing on the problem, you focus on the solutions to the problem.
Right.
And I think that like the crossover that I find with the storytelling that I do with songwriting is I really like to write songs that resolve in some way. Like they might not make you necessarily like the song Blue. Like it is still a sad song, but the resolution of it can feel hopeful. Whether that's in the chords or in the lyrics themselves. So I don't know. Yeah, there's a little bit of crossover there.
It's an interesting, if anything, just a lens to look at it through. But speaking of like solution-based things, I mean, that's something that a lot of like even like news in general lacks. Like it's constant like, pandering. It's like crisis. Everything's crisis, which like, there's a lot of like messed up stuff going on, but just to like have a solution-based piece of media.
It's literal game changer. Like a solution that you see in one place, not only is it a solution for that community, makes people come together, feel emboldened to actually do more for themselves.
Right.
Like those solutions can be taken and across the world to different locations depending on what type of solution is being presented, and I think that that's an incredibly powerfully like connecting tool, and I'm all about community. Like
absolutely.
I love people usually.
That's awesome. Cut. Speaking of like what your music, like your musical journey and like your songwriting process, like you had read rather, you'd said like it's a constant process of like self-discovery and like vulnerability where they come together. And I think it's a very interesting like difference between like a more cathartic, like trying to get something out as opposed to sitting down and like trying to learn something new.
Right.
Do you find like you err on one side of that or the other?
Yeah. So I would say, so my general process of songwriting is like, I'll just get like an inkling of like, I am feeling something. And before I knew how to play guitar, because I've been playing now for like 4 years, I would hear a melody in my head and maybe like sing it out and then just kind of word vomit into like the notes. What is it? Voice notes app.
Yeah. All the pros do it.
Yeah. Whatever happens. You got a whole album. Charlie Puth. Yeah. Voice notes.
Oh, wow. That's right. Yeah.
So exactly. Take a page out of his book.
Yeah.
And so, with that process, with that inkling of a feeling, I would just kind of let anything come up and, tweak things after the fact. But it was always a process of like, wow, I did not know that was in there still or was in there at all. And I think through doing that and just kind of like not consciously just like, letting things out, it allowed me to process, but also, again, to create a song that is really like, okay, we've discovered something.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. It's like to remove like the conscious aspect, like you hear yourself saying as like you're just more or less freestyling over like the beat, which it's amazing what you say and like the certain themes you go back to. You're like, I wonder why I keep coming to that.
Why that came up. Yeah. Because I'm big on love songs. I have an idea why that comes up. Like,
very cool. So your latest album, Joy, J-O-I, right?
J-O-I.
It's beautiful, beautiful album artwork. Like I said before, incredible. Really gives a vibe. It has a vibe of what I read. You like pineapple and peaches.
Yes,
like,
those are my favorite flavors.
Love it.
Thank you,
love it. That definitely embodied that. When I saw that album cover, I was like, perfect.
Yeah.
So you did everything yourself for that album in terms of like recording, mixing, mastering, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So I had some good friends who recorded. I recorded most of the guitar parts, but there are a couple of songs where guitar was recorded by a good friend who also did the drums and also did bass in some of the songs. But I worked with them for the other instruments, and then of course I did guitar and vocals for most of the songs. Well, vocals on all of the songs, guitar on most of the songs. And then, I did the mixing and mastering, mixing and mastering for everything as well.
Very cool. What a process. It came out great.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Sounds really cool. Have you found like, do you prefer like, or do you do one more than the other in terms of like working by yourself versus working with other people? Like I know I had read some article about you co-writing another song and like you share a little bit behind the scenes with that.
Yeah.
Such a different process.
Completely. Yeah. I do. I have done co-writing in that one instance now. And I generally lean a little bit into the more independent side of things, just because in the co-writing process, I love the collaboration, and I love within music the addition of like the instrumental collaboration wise, like because someone's going to hear a melody or a harmony that I'm not going to hear, and I love that. And with the songwriting process, it's fantastic, but I have a tendency to just be like, let me just write everything down and then you add your parts. And I know that that's not necessarily how collaboration works. So I work more independently with the songwriting for the most part.
But I mean, that works too. Sometimes you gotta just be like, hey, I have this thing.
Yeah.
Like even co-writing, you're like, all right, so we gotta start somewhere.
Right.
So like somebody's gotta sort of bring something to the forefront.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Figure it out.
I'd read a post you had put forth about, I think it was like a Spotify for Artists related post, about, like essentially you being grateful for the people that have helped you out, like the viewers or listeners or whatever.
Yeah.
Very interesting, like balance we gotta sort of like strike as like artists and musicians. Yeah. Of like those types of metrics. Like on the one hand, it seems like such a great place you're coming from that post. Like thanks everybody for like there being a name behind every number sort of thing.
Right.
The balance between that and like placing too much on like external things like that. Yeah. It's like, how do you find yourself managing that?
Yeah, I mean, as of late, I have taken a little bit of a break from social media, and that has helped quite a lot. Because I think if you had talked to me about this a year ago, and I was honest in how I was feeling, it was difficult to be like, yeah, so you have these metrics, you want to perform in a certain way, and like even when you like what you created, if it doesn't perform the way you want it to, it can just eliminate the feeling of joy that you had from creating that. And noticing that over time, because these algorithms sometimes they play with you and sometimes they don't, and noticing that feeling of just like I was like dejected in some spaces. I was like, I don't know, this is not why I do music. Like I know it's so important to maintain and to be aware of these metrics, but like my core reason for doing music is just wanting to connect with people. And so reminding myself, if it just gets one like, one comment where someone was like, this really hit me on some level, like that's good. So trying to work on getting out and back more into performing, because that's much more of like, I'm going to connect with people.
Sure. Yeah. Because otherwise, like if you're not performing, then you're almost like led in that trap of just looking at the numbers.
Exactly.
It's like, what else are you doing?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Speaking of just like putting down social media, another always a good move. Put it down.
We're all coming to understand.
I know.
Yeah.
We are, hopefully. Younger generation, I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, there's still hope. But one of our other friends who I had on the show actually, she also was telling me about like the backstory of one of her songs that she performed about a day, like much like the song you performed earlier, of like just sitting in a fill in the blank, like a park, a coffee shop, and like your phone dies or like you decide not to bring it out, and it just spawns this beautiful song. It's like, that's not a reminder enough.
Yes,
to just sort of like
take a step back. Exactly.
Yeah, and enjoy like the little moments. I know you would like. I read something else about you saying, like there are these big milestones that it's important to set for ourselves in some sense. Yeah. But then really, like as cliche as it is, or like as trite as it is, like enjoying the journey because it's like it's in the space for sure. Yeah. Like
the journey is the majority of it. And so, destinations are great. And you should celebrate the destinations. But if you're not enjoying like the in-between, you're really missing out on a lot.
Yeah. And it seemed like you were approaching it with a really good head. And I know you'd said a lot about like mindfulness and meditation. So like in the past few years, how has that sort of like played into all of your creation?
I mean, it's so interwoven at this point. I wasn't expecting to get into meditation the way that I did, but when moving here, I made a friend, and he taught me like the practice of meditation that he does, and he's been doing it for about a decade. And the experience that I had the first time that I meditated was just so powerful because, okay, so imagine you've never meditated before.
Take us through it.
Yeah. And this friend's like, okay, so we're going to sit like upright with like staring at a point on the wall. You're not moving. Your eyes are open, which I think a lot of people think meditation, you got to have your eyes closed, but he's like, no, eyes open the entire time. And we're going to do this for an hour. Wow. And I was like, so this is the first time that I'm meditating. You want me to do this for an hour? And he's like, you got this. And I was like, okay. And like throughout the process, I like, it's challenging, and I like start sweating, and at one point I start crying because I'm just like, something's happening, like being centered and focused and present in that way, because he was verbally guiding a meditation.
Oh, he was, okay.
Yes, yeah.
Gotcha.
Was just so powerful to the point where I was like, I think I just got to keep doing this. So I've meditated every single day for the past 2.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And
no, that's even like that with social media diet.
Yeah.
That's it.
Just, yeah. And it's helped me, I think, so the tenet that I've learned in meditation that I found to be so important is this idea of, it's not about trying to erase your thoughts or to get rid of them. It's just trying to work on detaching from them so that things can come up and you're not as emotionally involved in them.
Right.
And I think from the standpoint of working with social media, working with music, it's allowed me, you can have all the intrusive thoughts in the world, but it's not going to then affect the way that I'm performing,
right?
Or, again, worsen how I feel about how something's performing on social media. And there's still, moments where I'm like, anxiety, because I, have anxiety, but
yeah, don't we all?
Yes, yeah. I mean, if you didn't at this point,
exactly.
But yeah, it's just helped tremendously, with self-confidence and just feeling like I can be more connected with things around me.
Yeah. To your point, just like not, latch on too much to thoughts, like not identifying with them too much.
Exactly.
I've heard it said like a bunch of ways, but because you make these rash decisions or like judgment calls on this like temporary thing, and you get all riled up.
Yeah.
Even just like to put down your phone before you send out that like passionate text.
Right. Yeah. Let's take a deep breath.
You sleep on it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, your music was awesome. It's a very great blend of like, I know you had like shouted out to like Erykah Badu like I got some Amy vibes as well, so maybe Winehouse, very cool, very jazzy.
Appreciate that.
Like any special albums or songs or what have you that either like helped you create Joy, the latest album, or just in general, like on your path.
Ooh, okay. So it's not that you're necessarily gonna hear the inspiration in Joy of them, but my favorite album of all time is 10 Sumner's Tale by Sting.
Cool. Okay.
And I think it influenced songwriting specifically for me. I would remember my mom, she would put that album on anytime we were driving anywhere in the car. And what I appreciated so much about that, like the songs, not only was, Sting is a great singer, but that each song was telling a story. And so like as a kid, I was like really invested. I'm like, okay, so what happens next? And so like it inspired me to write music where you're like, okay, yeah, I'm actually, people like listen to music for like the vibe and the groove, and I do too, and I love that. But I also like being able to tell a compelling enough story where people are like, okay, I'm gonna actually sit back and listen to the lyrics. So that one, and then just as like a why type of album. Have you ever heard of this, the video game Sonic Adventures 2?
I've heard of Sonic, but I haven't got on the specific game.
Okay, well, just the soundtrack to that entire game.
We gotta link it somewhere.
It's fantastic. So that would be those two.
Love that. Some of those like old video game, well, not even old. I mean, video game soundtracks in general.
Yeah.
I mean, I say old because I'm thinking of like, like Donkey Kong Country or something like that.
Yeah.
Like the video games the music has no business being that good.
It's so good.
It's like just insane.
Yeah.
And
so
it's like, I almost didn't realize until semi-recently in like last few years, I'd like listen to it or like, lo-fi version of whatever.
Yes,
and it's like it hit a nostalgia point that I didn't realize was going to be hit.
Yeah.
Like, damn.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah. Have you seen the show Hey Arnold?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so the theme.
Oh my god.
Yes, I think Abner. He was a turtle. So one of the like earliest episodes, there was like a theme that came with the turtle, and I heard like a remix of it a couple of years ago, and it, like you said, just hit right in the nostalgia, right in the feels.
Yeah, you don't expect it coming.
Right, but you're like, oh, how did I ever live without this?
And you think that I mean, what great, how thankful I am to have been raised on like theme songs like that.
Yes,
like the Harold theme song is incredible.
Oh my god, yes,
so good.
Jim Lang is he was the producer of the music for that project. And it's, I guess the genre is acid jazz. And it's just like, so you just took acid jazz and you put this in like a 90s kids show.
Yeah, I love it.
Fantastic.
That's like what 90s like Nickelodeon just is about, which I absolutely love.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, so I mean, it's been great. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I do like, the point of the show, I think, in part, is to like expose people to new music and people who they might not otherwise be exposed to, like up and coming or maybe lesser known. Like, is there anybody you really like that maybe people don't know that you would like to share?
That's a good one too. Okay. I feel like, it's not lame because I do, they're popular for a reason. So I like a lot of popular people, but I will say Jacob Collier is one artist that like when you know him, you know him, but like some people, he's not entirely mainstream yet.
Yeah, he's not.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, shout out to your video that you did.
Harmony
thing, which is incredible.
Yeah.
So good.
Take Six was another group,
right.
that when I was younger, my mom showed me. And so I know that he was inspired by Take Six in a lot of the ways that he harmonizes. And so I was just like, for a period during one summer, I think this was the summer of 2020, I just made a bunch of cover videos. And that was one where I was like, let's just try to do Jacob Collier. So I was like playing with like, like pencils and stuff. And it was fun.
It came out great.
Yeah,
it came out really cool.
Thank you.
One thing I love about Jacob Collier is like, even in musicians or anybody that like has achieved greatness in any field, like when they can maintain the humility, like Jacob Collier, like he is, and like you watch his master classes or what have you, like with his like lectures or whatever about music, and it's so like unassuming.
Yes,
it's like very humble, and like he'll break down these concepts in such like a not, like
it's not facetious, it's not arrogant. It's just like I just want you to learn so you can also enjoy the music.
Exactly, and there are people who are way less like of a genius than him that talk down to people more.
Right.
But this guy is just like, just reassures this like whimsical enthusiasm about
with the Crocs and
it's great. I love it. So cool.
Yeah, and maybe in a way, like, not to put anyone down, but that idea that when you are that level of genius, like the humility really can come hand in hand. Because like I saw him perform in concert a couple months ago, and I got COVID at that time, but like
worth it.
It was kind of worth it, but not to put down the seriousness of COVID.
Sure.
But it was just like you saw him enter into like fugue state, and it was just pure expression. And so to be in the presence of someone like that was just incredible. And that person's creating from a different space maybe than others, like haven't necessarily found that for themselves yet.
Sure.
And so I'm like, that's the dude.
Let me get split out.
You want to just like rub off a little bit, please.
Go to enough shows, of Jacob Collier and osmosis.
Right. That's dope.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. You got anything to plug? Any like cool things on the horizon?
Ooh, okay, yes.
Like
so I have a couple of different artist names that I go under. And I'm going to be releasing a project under the name Chris this coming fall, and then also just KRIS.
Cool.
Yeah, and then another project, and that's with a producer. His name is Mole. And then I'm going to be working on an EP under Kristen Merritt to release later this year as well.
Right on. We'll link all the stuff, all the current stuff that's out. I've been having a great time listening to it.
Thank you.
Very cool. But thanks again for calling.
Thank you for having me.
Until next time.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Bye.